Alright guys, so today's mini lesson is going to be a little bit different since I'm not actually there with you. So you guys are just going to be watching this video. I would encourage you to watch it with your writing partner because a couple of times throughout the video I'm going to have you guys pause and have discussions or jot some things down in your notebook. So just be prepared to pause as necessary and kind of follow the instructions in the video. And then I will give you your instructions for what to do during your independent writing time. So our topic for today is going to be on how to look at different elements of a story and how they connect to each other. And I've been talking about this quite a bit, talking about how characters impact one another. How does the setting influence the plot? How does the plot influence the characters? And so today you're really going to spend some time writing with those thoughts in mind. So kind of an analogy for you guys to think about when you're considering how pieces of literature interact with one another. I want you guys to think about when you're watching a sporting event. A lot of times if you're watching, let's say, a basketball game, you're really only watching like the players at that moment and the play that's happening at that moment. You're not really thinking about all of the background information that goes into it. However, if you are a sports analyst, you are able to not only watch the plays and watch the players, but you're also able to know some of that background information. Maybe you know where these college athletes went to high school. Maybe you know the connections between players. Maybe they knew each other in different situations. Maybe they were coached by people that are well known. So there's a lot more that goes into watching a sporting event when you know the background and the background and the players and kind of those interactions and how they can kind of piece together. So that being said, when you guys are reading, I know a lot of times you're focusing just on like the event that's happening, just the character that's being discussed in the story. But what you really should be doing is thinking from a more analytical position. So, again, comparing it to a sports analyst and thinking about all the different contributing factors that led to this point in the story. Like I've said before, you have to start thinking like an author. You have to start thinking about why the author of your book made certain decisions that he or she made throughout the course of the novel. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing in today's activity. So I want you guys to take a second. I want to have you pause the video in just a minute. And what I want you to do is I want you to take a second with your writing partner and I want you to write down all of the elements of a book, of literature that we have talked about this year. And then I'll make sure we kind of hit on everything as well. So go ahead and pause the video for just a second. Okay, so some of the elements, hopefully, that you guys got written down. Characters, right? We talk about characters constantly. That's one of the most important pieces of literature, are the characters that we see interacting with one another. You also got the setting. Hopefully you put setting. Hopefully you put the plot. The plot line is obviously like the, basis of our story. And some of you probably even went a little bit farther. You could have listed things like the initiating event. You could have listed the conflict, the problem. You could have said the climax, resolution. So remember, we've talked about using that academic vocabulary when you talk about literature. So all of those different pieces kind of make up our story elements. And so your goal today is going to be to investigate and kind of see how these different elements interact with one another. Okay, so to start, I want you to think about a stolen party. We had Rosara, and she went to the birthday party, and if you remember, she was treated more like the help than she was a friend, which she was not anticipating. So we're going to do, there's several things that you can do, but what I would like you guys to do right now is kind of think about a cause and effect situation, okay? And we're going to do cause and effect with the characters and with the setting. Okay, so I'm going to be even more specific. I want you to think about the cause and effect of Rosara being in the kitchen at the birthday party. Okay, so what was the cause and effect relationship that happened as a result of her being present at the birthday party, and in particular in the kitchen? So I'm going to have you pause the video and have a short discussion with your writing partner, and then I'll kind of follow up with you guys. Okay, so if you think about being in the kitchen and how it affects Rosara, she felt like being in the kitchen made her special. It made her unique. She was like the best friend at the party because she was the only one that was allowed to be in the room. It had the effect of making her feel like she was in the best place possible because she got to see the monkey. The monkey was in the kitchen, and that's like what she was super excited about when she talked about going to this birthday party. So there's lots of things that happen as a result of her being in that location in particular. And you could do that with a lot of different elements of the story. We could talk about how there's a comparison between Rosara and her mom and their relationships with the setting. So Rosara's mom obviously had really negative opinions of this family, and in particular the setting of their home. So you could just build on this. And there's so many layers to it, and that's kind of what I'm going to have you guys work on today with your independent, with your book club book, thinking about how these different story elements kind of overlap and connect to each other. So here in a second, I'm going to have you guys, when the video is over, I'm going to have you get back on Google Classroom, and I want you to open up the link that says Book Club Writers Workshop Slides, and you're going to go all the way down to the very last slide, so slide number 30. Has the instructions for what I want you guys to do next during your writing time. So you are going to begin writing, and your goal is going to be to do some connections and analyzing those story elements. And I want you to pick 2 different elements, okay? It's totally up to you what you pick. You could pick the plot and the characters. You could pick the setting and the characters. You could pick the setting and the plot. It does not matter at all. But you're going to pick 2 story elements that you want to focus on in your writing today, all right? You can look at cause-effect relationships. You could look at compare-contrast relationships. You could look at problem-solution relationships. It is completely up to you. When you get to that slide, there are several different kind of options for how you can do comparison, because I think that's probably the most simple option, is to compare these different story elements. So your choices are, if you want to go from that list, and obviously branch off on your own if you feel like you have some really good ideas and you want to think about other connections in different ways, be my guest. As long as you're writing the whole time, that is totally fine by me. But for those of you that want a little bit more assistance and some guidance, you could look at how characters respond to the same event. So you've got multiple characters, and their responses to what's going on in the story is going to be very different. You could do a compare-contrast of that. You could also compare how characters react to the setting. Okay, maybe they have different responses to the location that they're at. Kind of like I explained with Rosara and her mom, their perceptions of the setting of Luciana's house were very, very different. So you could do a comparison of that. You could compare how a character feels or acts at different points of the plot. Okay, so think about what's going on in that character's life that they're responding to different events in different ways. All right. You could compare settings at different points in the plot, especially if there's lots of different settings within your story. How are they impacted by the course of events that happened in your novel? And then the last option that I list for you, you could compare how a character feels or acts in different settings. Okay, so maybe their personality changes based on the location that they're at within that point in the story. Okay, so you're welcome to do like a Venn diagram is obviously like a really easy one to get some brainstorming and some thoughts down. But the goal is, and I mentioned this yesterday, is for you guys to try and write a page worth of text within this writing time frame. And you're going to have quite a bit of time to do some writing today because this video is not quite as long as some of our mini lessons. So take advantage of all of that time. If you don't finish a page worth of writing on this connections and analyzing the different elements and how they relate to each other, you will have homework. So make sure that you are focused during class today so you can get that full page. Whatever you don't finish, I would ask that you take your writer's notebook home tonight, and then tomorrow I will look over your writing from today and make sure that you had that full page. So for some of you, that means you're really going to have to push yourself. Writing, like I've said before, is a little bit of perseverance. It's a little bit of just giving it your all for the 30 minutes or whatever that you have to write, and just trying to stay focused on your tasks. So now that the video is done, this is the end of the mini lesson. You guys can go ahead and pull up the Google Slides presentation that's on Google Classroom. And like I said, go to slide 30 and you have your list of kind of options for how to start this comparison process if you need a little bit of guidance. Again, if you feel comfortable and you kind of have like a thought in mind, go with that. But that slides presentation is there for you if you need it. Please be respectful to the sub the rest of the day and enjoy your day. I'll be back this afternoon, so if you have any questions or if you need anything, come see me during CAT. Talk to you later. Bye.